Hi, I'm Lori Betts. Welcome to Golden Years. This month I am featuring Sam Boyer from the Brunswick Sun-Times, and she is Brunswick's icon. So come on back and we're going to hear all about Sam. Welcome, Sam. Thank you for joining us on Golden Years.
Okay, I'm glad to be here.
And I heard a rumor that you did the first show with Jeanette League.
Oh gosh,
Scope.
poor Jeanette was so nervous that first day. You know, so she had me and she had Elmer Benjamin, and who of course is deceased now as well. But you know, we just sat and talked. I kept telling her, just talk.
Just be natural.
Yeah. And she caught on right away, you know, after that. So it was cool.
Oh, that's good. And that show lasted for many years.
Many years, yeah.
Now you are all about Brunswick, and you have been with the Sun-Times for many years.
54, somewhere like that, 53, 54 years, yeah.
And
And actually not the Brunswick Sun-Times, but its predecessors, going all the way back to what was called the Leader Post, which was the first daily newspaper in Medina County.
So you're going way back.
Way back.
And you wrote back then for them.
No, I didn't start out as a writer. I started out in the production department.
Interesting.
And then in about 1960 or 60, well, it must have been 61, the publisher Neil Gow asked if I knew anybody who could write cover council meetings for him. And I said, well, I'll try. And they paid a whole $10 a meeting.
Woo-hoo!
I was only making 95 cents an hour, mind you, part-time.
Way back then. Oh, wow.
And so they were going to pay a whole $10. So I went to the first council meeting, which was at the old fire station on 303. And I mean, it was hot and heavy because those were the first days of Brunswick. You know, it had just been incorporated. It was very tumultuous, to say the least. And I typed until 3 in the morning. Oh. And then I had to take what I typed to Medina, all for $10.
Woohoo! But gas was probably minimal back then.
Oh gosh, yes, it was probably maybe 35 cents a gallon.
And had you taken shorthand prior to?
Oh yes, yeah. I'd taken shorthand in high school and typing, and what's really funny is that 50 years after I graduated, or after I was inducted into the National Honor Society, my high school, which was Columbia, in Columbia Station, invited us back to celebrate the 50th year. And there were, each of us from the first 3 classes, we all used typing and shorthand in some way. Totally different jobs, but we all used it in some way. So wasn't that, I mean, the teacher was still there too.
Oh, wow.
And so she was very proud of us.
I bet. So then how did that, so you started doing the meetings.
Yes.
And then you just worked, where did you go from there?
Okay, well, I still continued to work in the production department, and I also worked in the production department for the Berea News, which had become a Sun newspaper shortly thereafter. And so I worked production, I did that, and I also sold liquid embroidery on the house plan. I had 3 part-time jobs, and I didn't make as much money as my husband did. all put together.
Oh, that's, and you were probably working harder.
Well, perhaps, I don't know, but yeah, those were the good old days, women. And so when I started writing, though, you know, they had started calling me Sam. I have a very unusual first name that my boss could never pronounce. So based on the Richard Diamond Private Eye series, there was always a woman you heard but never saw, and he called her Sam. Well, my boss had never met me because we were in a different location. So he started calling me Sam, and I'm getting upset, you know, like, why are you calling me Sam? But it caught on, and I kind of liked it. And so when I started writing under the name Sam Boyer. And at that time, there were very few real women news writers. You know, they did Society, and they did, you know, stuff like that, but especially on small papers. And so a lot of people thought I was a guy for many years.
Oh, I can imagine, because it is
I
a
still
male
get
name.
things to Mr. Boyer.
Do
so-
you?
Oh, yeah. People just don't seem to notice, you know, so,
Yeah, but we're so used to it.
yeah.
All right, so where did the purple hair come in? When did the purple hair come in? Was that your favorite color?
Well, in 1973, I started, with the help of local business people, started our own newspaper called the County Line. And it served Brunswick and Strongsville. So because we seemed to be left out of everything, you know, the Medina paper covered everything in Medina, and unless it was bad news for Brunswick. The big papers forgot about Strongsville, you know, because it was at the end of the county. So we covered both of those. And independently, we lasted longer than any newspaper that had ever tried to do it on its own. So 1 year and 14 months. And I had the poor tax guy who lived in Strongsville, federal tax. I was paying the people who worked for me, not myself, and not the taxes. And he kept saying, please pay your taxes. I love your paper. I don't want you to shut down. And then Neil Gow purchased the paper from us, paid up everything, and then he split it into 2 separate papers, and then those separate papers were put into the Sun newspapers in the 80s at some time. But when I owned the paper, I had another girl that I had worked with, and I hired her to help me. And we went to dinner with the mayor of Strongsville at the time, Dale Findlay, and we were both wearing purple. Not on purpose. And so we decided to start the Purple Women's Gang with only 2 members.
But you were important members.
We used to carry Green Avenger squirt guns.
Oh my God.
Now you couldn't do that because people would think that you were
yeah.
firing on them, you know. So, I mean, it was really funny. And then people started giving me purple things, and then I started wearing more purple things. And then Frank Bianca, who owned Frank White Ford, said, do you want a purple car? And I said, but you don't make a purple car. And he said, we will. And so he ordered a purple Torino, and at the time it was Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah.
And then Tony Stabile, who worked for Frank at the time, painted the silver stripe around the car, just like Starsky and Hutch. It was such a hit. But then I also found out that purple gets real dirty really fast. So all my cars after that, almost all, were silver with a purple stripe or purple something. I had purple flames, purple pinstripes.
Oh my.
I mean, you name it. Every year it's something, every time it's something different. So, and then in 1981 or so, Matrix started making a purple hair color. And my beautician said,
You got to do it.
you want to try purple hair? And I said, okay. And we just did it over my hair. Now I had a gray streak here. I was starting to get gray. And I said, sure. And so we put it over it, but you could only really see it in the sunshine. So we let the gray grow out, and then started out, I had an afro.
remember that.
Started out with a stripe about that big. And now you see where it's gone.
But I like it.
Yeah, me too.
It looks very nice.
So it's become a trademark. You know, I never wear anything but purple. If I do, I really feel uncomfortable.
I bet. You're so used to wearing the purple.
I was involved in somebody hit my car and we had to go to court, and the attorney insisted that I not have purple hair and I wear something black and white or whatever. So I did it.
You had to go out and buy?
I
or
did
you go
not feel like myself.
I bet you did.
I felt awful. And
was
then
an
it turned
impersonator.
out that I met that judge years later, and purple was her favorite color. So I could have easily worn that purple and nobody would have.
Said anything to you.
Right.
That's your color. That is you. You are the purple lady.
I'm the purple lady, yep. And that even when CBs were in style, I was the purple lady. So it was fun.
Oh, how neat. What history.
It's fun, it's fun. And now, because I write a column every week, and have had to write a column every week for around 50 years, okay, sometimes there isn't much news. And so when you're walking around town and people see you and they say, "Oh, I meant to tell you something." Oh, it's such a big help.
But you pull the young kids, you pull
Oh,
the
yeah.
graduates, you pull the companies.
Well, I have a lot of people who tell me that their scrapbook includes their birth announcement, their graduation announcement, their marriage announcement, their children's birth, and now their grandchildren.
That is
So,
awesome.
yeah, it is.
though.
I
That
love
is
it. I really do.
fantastic.
I really
mean,
do.
To have that history.
Yeah, the only problem is now that so many people know me, and I have a horrible time putting names and faces together if I don't see people often, or I see them out of context. You know, if I'm used to seeing you at GTB Medical, that's one thing, but if I saw you out on the street and didn't know you other than that,
Yeah, it's,
I'd have thought, I know her, I know her, I know. It used to happen with Dick Hoover all the time.
oh, yeah.
He used to come into the office and I go, I know that person.
But tell me how. Oh, that's, but
yeah.
that's natural.
So I'm
That's-
hoping, most people will say, "Hi, Sam," and they'll give me their name. But when they don't, boy, it takes me forever to figure it out unless I just come out and say, "I can't remember who you are."
But I equate that. There's only one of you, and so many people know you. You can't know everybody.
Yes, I can remember names, and if you give me enough time, I can almost tell you when I wrote about them. But it's just putting those two things together that's hard, yeah.
Now, since you have so much history in the writing world, how about technology? Is it a challenge for
my
you?
God, no.
Are you thankful for it?
Oh, I'm thankful for it, way thankful for it.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, when I started, we had the first offset newspaper in Ohio. Up until then, everything was hot lead print that you had to put in a tray upside down and backwards, you know, like you see in the old Western movies. Okay, that's how they did it. We had the first thing where they took a picture of the page. You laid out the page and they took a picture of it with a camera, a whole page. We had to ship the negatives to Ashland. It was the only place in Ohio that had a printing press. And then later the Call and Post on the east side of Cleveland. They had a press, so we used to take them there. But we worked, I don't know if you remember where the Herman building is now, the old Lance and Company on the corner of next to the Rotary Clock
Wait,
Tower.
okay, all right.
The brick building, which is one of Brunswick's most historic buildings, was the post office.
Way back.
Way back. And so that's where I started working for the newspaper as a typist along with Emily Oravec, who's still around. Emily and I were on IBM executive typewriters, which meant that you had to type a line, figure out how many spaces to make it justified, even on the right-hand side, and type it again. Once, twice, once. You'd be surprised how many people could not figure that out over the years.
Wow.
Emily, by the way, was the fastest, most accurate typist I have ever met in my life. So, you know, you had to figure out an N was 2 spaces and an M was 3 spaces and a comma was 1 space. You had to figure out how many spaces it would take to make it. So that was the beginning of our technology. Also, down in the basement of that building, it had a tin roof and we could hear mice running. So you kept typing because as long as you typed, you couldn't hear them. And there was also a huge arc light camera. And so when they were taking pictures of they were doing the negatives, he'd say, look the other way, and we'd look that way, and then it was like being in a Frankenstein movie.
Oh, I wonder if the mics
So
are
that was
still
fun.
there.
Okay, so then next technology came along were big clunky machines that kind of did the justifying for you, but they were huge. I mean, you'd had to go like this to type on them, you know. And then I left the production business for a while. When I started my newspapers in the 70s, I still used the IBM executives because it was the least expensive way to do it. You know, and so when Neil Gow bought us, then he had all of the latest technology. So when we moved to Rolling Hills.
Yes, I remember
to
you
811,
there.
And then the production department was in the back. So I still handled production while I was writing things. So we got the first computer to do the things. You typed it, but it came out on a long sheet on a computer. And they were so new, they still had tubes, like old television sets. And they didn't have repair people. You had to call them, and then they would send you parts, and then you had to put them in. So that's why computers have never scared me, because I know that you can take them apart and put them back together again, and it's not, you know, there's nothing much to do it. So the more computerized we got, the easier it got to do our jobs.
All right, Sam, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to hear what is going on in your social world.
Some risks are obviously not worth taking.
Watch where you're going!
Some aren't as obvious, but could be just as deadly, like the risk for type 2 diabetes, especially if you're over 45 or overweight. Take the diabetes risk test. It's free and takes less than a minute. Type 2 diabetes is one risk you can't afford to take. So stop diabetes before it stops you.
My limit is 2, and I always make sure to eat something.
If I'm out for several hours, my limit is 3.
I know my limit is 1.
Until I'm 21, my limit is always 0.
Alcohol affects people differently, but the legal limit is .08 for everyone over 21. In order to be safe and stay well below the legal limit, it's important to know your limits and know the law. To find out more, go to responsiblelimits.com.
You're watching The Fact.
Welcome back. I'm Lori Betts, and I'm interviewing Sam Boyer from the Brunswick Times. And she's giving us an update on just everything that happened in the Brunswick Times world, from one newspaper to the other. In her social life, she is very involved in the Historical Society. So Sam, give us an update. What is going on?
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. As you may know, the city had to shut down the museum at Heritage Farm because of safety concerns. We have to fix the roof and the foundation and all of that. And so very expensive, of course, and it's a shame because we have some wonderful, wonderful gifts from old families in the community inside there that people love to look at.
We went off-site a couple months ago,
Yeah.
and Mamie was wonderful. She is wealth of information.
Yeah, she knows every single thing that's
Oh,
in
she
there.
does.
So, thanks to the group of people that we have now at the Historical Society, we've been able to ask the county and receive a $30,000 grant toward up to $30,000 to fix the foundation. Once we get that fixed, we've also had a lot of other wonderful donations from people. We've raised enough money to do the roof, and we hope to have the siding done. We're going to do drainage. We have so many great volunteers who have come forward to help us. In fact, at sometime at the farm today, we're having people look at and giving us their opinions. You know, carpenters, we're having all kinds of different things. Then in September, we had a paint blitz day where a whole bunch of volunteers, like from, we're hoping Rotary, but the Knights of Columbus, National Honor Society.
Young kids.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Good.
They came and painted all of the outbuildings, all of those white buildings outside, because we're a stop on the Fall Foliage Tour. Also, Spring Mist Farms is on it, and then Valley City, Hinckley, the Park District will all be on it. So you know, watch for information about that. But everything at the Historical Society is free. It's all by donation, most of the time anyway. And so we're going to have a huge number of kids activities. And we've had Carrie and Jerry Russell, who are going to help Barb McGreer, and they're going to handle all of the kids' things, and we're going to have things like candle dipping and face painting and walking on stilts. My next door neighbor is a hooper. You know, she makes and does hula hooping, and so she's going to come and help. And we're hoping some kids from Voft and maybe the Queens from Old Fashioned Days will all help with that. Then we're going to have concerts in the barn. We're going to have, this is exciting too.
Yeah, that's good.
We're going to have a Brunswick poster. Every other community in Medina County has its own poster done by Rich Doyle. And so this is an example. So he did this one for Ohio State.
Okay.
You see how he took pictures and then he draws them. So we've got all kinds of history on ours.
Like a
and
collage.
Yes, and he was starting to work on those in August, and then we're going to have 100 of them for sale. And the Medina County Visitors Bureau also has them. They're great for framing, and they'll be $20. We'll have them from 4 to 6 p.m. on the 14th, so that's the Sunday. He's going to sign and personalize them for us, which will be great because he leaves he's going to have the clock tower, but he's going to leave the time empty, and you could put like your child's birthday as the time, that kind of thing. So that's going to be fun. That's Rich Doyle. And then we're going to have a 50-50 drawing, which helps us to raise money,
It does.
because we not only have to save the farm, which is what we're calling our campaign, to save the farm, but also the day-to-day expenses. We have electricity, we have water, we have the security system all have to be paid. And so we have a huge number of volunteers helping us. Mamie is wonderful, of course. Amber Delacus, whose place I took as vice president, because she's going to college full-time,
Yes,
as
she
well
is.
as helping us and running her own business. So I told her I don't know how she did this because it's like a full-time job. We've moved our offices to the Bat Studio, so we have a locked office now that's really nice for us, so that we can get in and do our get to our mailing lists and all that. On December 20th, we're going to have a wine tasting at Skyview Lodge. Linda Hudson has agreed to help us with that. And for $25, we're going to have Spirits with the Spirits. And instead of us Spirits of the Past walk, we're going to have our historical figures there mingling with the crowd. So you can learn about
Ah,
Brunswick, some
neat.
of Brunswick's most interesting figures from the past while you're enjoying wine and
What a good concept.
and hors d'oeuvres, and yeah, we're going to have fun.
And where will you sell the tickets?
We will be selling them at the Fall Foliage Tour, and then anybody who is a member would have them. So Mamie or me or anybody who's a member.
Okay.
Jeff Neidert from BAT,
okay.
yeah, he's been helping us with the public relations, and so we're just so pleased that so many people want to help. I was at Old Fashioned Days the entire week, and I was really surprised at how many people knew about what was happening and wanted to help us, maybe not with money, but with their time. Oh my gosh, Dawn Rivera came up and she asked us some questions, and she lives on Oxford Drive and she's renovating her house, and she sold popcorn for us at a concert we had. We have never sold so much popcorn. And Daryl Hudson, who's the Daryl and Friends band that we've seen on the BAT several times, held a concert, a bluegrass concert for us. And we had people from all ages come up and join in on that. And so they're going to be asked to do that again at the Fall Foliage Tour. So it's just so much fun.
You have a lot of great things happening.
Oh yeah, it really is. Don Weiland, who just moved back to Brunswick, he's a Brunswick grad, moved back to Brunswick. He's a member of the York Historical Society. He's been handling all of the repair stuff for us with the city, getting the city to help us get going, and the city's been wonderful about helping us. So I mean, right now we're so optimistic about what's happening that we can get that museum open again. Mamie goes to talk to the kids at the schools. They all want to do something. So I think maybe in the spring we're going to have like a 5K somewhere, a 5K walk and run, where the kids can, raise quarters or pennies or dollars or how much they want from all the schools, and they can do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and the society is taking the proactive approach.
Oh gosh,
so
yes.
you guys are really out there, and you are trying to raise those dollars,
Yes.
which is awesome.
Yes.
And I think the community realizes
I
that,
hope
and they
so.
don't want to let history
Oh
go
no,
away.
I mean, we have so little of it here because we were a farming community. And that's what this is, Heritage Farm. And it shows an 1860s to 1899 farmhouse. Started out as one room where they ate, slept, read, everything in one room, and the old kitchen and all of the artifacts we have. And it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And the young kids, I mean, they need to
love it.
see how
They
how
can't
people
figure
did
out where they
live.
plugged in their computers.
Yeah, I know. Well, and Mamie was telling me about the typewriter that they have on display, and she's like,
And it's
"The kids don't
familiar in
even
a
know."
way.
Yeah, really.
It has all the letters.
Really, but that
Well,
really
now they don't
works.
even know what a computer keyboard is practically, because they're just texting all the time. Use their smartphones for everything. I do not have a
Technology.
smartphone. I'm not too smart with a smartphone. So
I'm with you. I haven't been
I
there
do not
yet.
text because I'm a bug about spelling. I've made my share of mistakes, but I don't text.
It's a challenge just to keep up with technology
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
changing so quick.
Yeah, I mean, I love my computer. I love email because you can open it when you have time. You can reply when you have time. And we do have a website, www.brunswickhistory.com, and an email, brunswickareahistory@gmail.com, if you want to email us
okay.
and find out about things. You want to be put on our mailing list, on our emailing list, because we do practically everything by email that we can.
Cost effective, so that is great.
Yeah.
That is
And
great.
some people don't have computers. We're a lot of older women like me, older guys, but thankfully a lot of fresh faces and younger people are coming to help. So
And that's great. That is great.
I
great
love
news.
that. I just love that.
We heard a little bit about you and what you're involved in right now, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us on Golden Years, and we'll see you next month.